you guys are supported a lot because we're good. We're better at at Black wealth anyway than any university in America because we understand Black wealth at a very high level, and we don't sort of make the mistakes a lot of other places make, including a lot of HBCUs. When it comes to Black wealth, a lot of HBCUs get it wrong because they're manufacturing employees. And the Wall Street Journal just reported that Black wealth has actually dropped, and the racial wealth gap has actually increased. Not because of the people that don't make a lot of money, it's because of the college graduates. A lot of college graduates, unfortunately, inadvertently, by no fault of their own, have actually worsened the racial wealth gap, largely because they went to college and learned how to go and just work for a company that was owned by somebody who wasn't Black, right? And so effectively, what has occurred, where the universities have gotten it wrong, and where the Black Business School, I believe, gets it right, because we live heavily on a powernomics-based philosophy. We believe in the Black Core of Three, which is that we believe Black people should educate our own children, create our own jobs, and support Black businesses. Where universities have gotten it wrong is they are fulfilling their original mission, which is to educate you so that you will be trained to go and work for a corporation. Corporations are the ones who fund universities, and they fund the universities because they said, look, we need more employees. Well, if you look at the history of capitalism for the last 1,000 years, most capitalist structures throughout the world have been built on this weird idea that the bottom 90% should be working their butts off, working themselves into an early grave to support the top 10%. They did this in Europe, like literally 6, 7, 800 years ago. You can find examples of this, right? And so I'm not here to try to change the system. I don't know how to really do that, but I am here to kind of say that understanding that is one of the first steps to really getting yourself ahead. So the biggest thing that you have to understand is that, and we're dropping our son off to college tomorrow. So we're not anti-college in this household. I'm a college professor. My wife is a college professor. Our kids are all going to college, but we don't see college in the way a lot of other people may see it. Their mother sees college as a place to have a great life experience and to learn a lot, right? And so do I see college as a place that can give you some basic skills that will stay with you through life, and connections as well that you can build, that you can utilize in order to do what you really have to do as a Black person, which is to start companies, make investments, and buy property, right? And so what I've told our son when he goes to college tomorrow, and he's our son, he's her biological son, but he's my son, period. And what I've told him is, when you go to college, major, I don't care what you major in, keep your grades up, because working hard and making good grades is a symptom and a symbol of how you're built as a man, right? It's a symptom of your responsibility. It's the symptom of your ability to kind of follow through on your commitments, and to have the discipline necessary to do the hard work required for success. But the number one thing you must learn is how to have your own business, because going into this global economy as a Black man is very different from going into this global economy as a white man. Do not let anybody convince you differently, because what will happen is if you get tricked into believing that you are the same as a white woman, you're going to get your feelings hurt. You're going to get devastated. And when you're 30, you're going to be 35 years old, running around here complaining about how you were duped and disillusioned. And also, we talked about student loan debt. I said, look, student loan debt is not a crime or a curse, but too much student loan debt, overdosing on student loan debt, is what gets most Black college graduates in trouble. Half of all Black college graduates never repay their student loans. They default on their student loans. So many of them are going to die in debt. And these are people that have degrees, and they have MBAs. They have master's degrees. They have PhDs. They have law degrees. That's why you can go on the internet right now. If you go to YouTube and you search for PhDs on welfare, you will find examples, and there'll probably be a Black person that they'll be telling the story about, where there'll be a PhD, with a person with the highest level of education you could possibly obtain, who is on welfare, who makes less money than somebody who works at McDonald's or Burger King. Well, how is that possible? How can you have all that education and make less money than a Burger King employee? Well, it's because you have the wrong education. You didn't get all the skills that you needed in order to be successful. I mean, if you're smart enough to get a PhD, then you're also smart enough to learn how to start a company. If you're smart enough to get that master's degree, then you're smart enough to learn the rules on how to buy property and buy real estate, right? So what I've just basically told him is that getting a formal education is very different from learning how to build wealth and build the kind of power that you need to obtain freedom as a Black person in this society. This is a very basic idea. It's not complex. A lot of universities don't do it because they don't care about black wealth, right? Why would the University of Iowa care about closing the racial wealth gap? I mean, they might do lip service for it, but that's not their job. They're there for the state of Iowa. They're there for their students. They're not there for us, right? Why would an HBCU care about closing the racial wealth gap? HBCUs are not were not founded by black people, most of them, and many of them are not controlled by black people. They have black administrators. They have a few black teachers. A lot of them don't have a lot of African American teachers, ironically, which is very strange. When I went to Howard University and applied for a job there 15 years ago, back when I was working in Syracuse, I was interviewed by a Chinese guy who was the head of the department. I thought that was kind of strange that a Chinese guy was deciding if I was qualified to go teach black students, right? I don't imagine that I can go to China and find there's probably not one single university in China anywhere. In fact, I would bet money on it where I would go there and have to interview with an African American who can decide if a Chinese person is qualified to teach Chinese kids, if that makes sense. Now, I did teach in China, but believe me, I wasn't running the show in China. I was a guest in their house, right? And they made that clear to me. Whereas in the US, we kind of have a different perspective. So long story short, I want you to understand why the Black Business School is different, why we aim to be different, and why we're the best in the world at what we do. It's because we focus on one thing, and that's black wealth and all the things that wire back into the racial wealth gap. The things that people don't think about, like family structure. You can't point to any community on earth where wealth is being built on a large scale and the family structure is broken. There's no example of that anywhere. So what you want to really understand is that family matters. That you know, when you have the chaos with your relationships that's going on, the high divorce rate, high baby mamaism, baby daddyism, all those things are killing about probably $1 trillion a year. And black wealth is being taken away from bad relationships. I don't know if y'all know that or not. So and that's important to understand, because people don't understand when I'm going into the relationship stuff and I'm bringing in relationship therapists. It's because I'm helping you to repair the connections that are necessary for you to learn how to build empires, as opposed to destroying empires or potential that you could have had if you'd worked together, right? So anyway, with that said, speaking of China, we were talking about China a second ago. Let me just mention a little side note on China. And this is really a general wealth idea that I want you to kind of keep in your pocket in terms of how the game of global economic warfare is being portrayed. Right now in Afghanistan, you are witnessing just an extraordinarily sad and tragic event that will be remembered for the next 100 years. Okay. What's happening in Afghanistan right now, where you see people, you know, running for the exits. You know, people, the airplane was taken off. Anybody see that video? Give me a yes or no if you saw that video where the plane was taken off and people were so desperate that they hung onto the side of the plane and the plane got into the sky and people were falling off the plane. And of course there's Haiti also. And I see that I see the comment on Haiti. It's really one tragedy at a time. Haiti is very important. I've actually commented on Haiti extensively on my Instagram, which is The Real Boyce Watkins. So don't think we're ignoring Haiti. I'm talking about Afghanistan, largely because this was the thing that I just saw first this morning. So we'll start there. But anyway, so Afghanistan's kind of in chaos. And anybody that knows history knows that what's happening in Afghanistan is just history repeating itself. It's similar to the fall of Saigon. In both cases, in my view, the United States, what they did was they did what they always do. They butt in another country's business. They go there and they create a chopping block where they create dividing lines in the culture, right? That's why a lot of people around the world hate Americans or hate America. They're maybe not Americans, but they hate America. They divided the country, and you had the people that were that were backed by the Americans that were put in charge of Afghanistan. So they were kind of this propped up leadership. And then you had the rebel groups, which I guess they called it the Taliban and stuff like that. And well, that's happened in a lot of countries. I mean, it happened in Rwanda. It's happened in parts of India. It happened in Vietnam. And so with Vietnam, with the fall of Saigon, which is just like the fall of Afghanistan, the fall of Kabul, you had a scenario where the U.S. was backing one side, and then they just decided they didn't want to do it anymore. So basically, they cut them off, and now all the people that were connected to the U.S. government, who just had jobs working for the U.S.-backed government, they're all being killed right now. Their whole families are being slaughtered. The Taliban has a deep list of all the people that work for the Americans, and they're going to kill them and kill their families. That same thing happened in Vietnam. They were chopping people's heads off in the street with the fall of Saigon. And because we, as Americans, are trained to see darker people, people who are not white, as inferior to us, almost like animals, They didn't care. It just wasn't a big deal to the American government. They're like, oh, we'll just go and use another country as our plaything in the future. So why am I bringing that up? Well, in the backdrop of what's happening in Afghanistan, you have China. China's just sitting back, kind of watching what's going on, right? And China's saying, okay, we're going to get in where we fit in, as Too Short used to say. And so what they're going to do is the Chinese, they see that in parts of Afghanistan, they have a huge amount of natural resources. There's a ton of oil in the Middle East. I think one of the cities in Afghanistan has the largest lithium deposit on the planet, over $1 trillion worth of lithium. And so they're going to come in and they basically are going to work with the warlords. Like, so the U.S., we're going to sit back and we're going to say we don't support the Taliban because they don't believe in gay rights and they don't believe in they have a certain view when it comes to sex, sexism and feminism, and and we don't like that, right? And I'm not judging that. You can have whatever perspective you want, but we tend to come into spaces in a very self-righteous concept. Like, like every president, from Obama on down, they'll go to Uganda somewhere and want to put up the LGBT flag, or something. And people are like, look, we don't roll like that over here. That's not our MO. And so we offend a lot of people because we believe, again, it goes back 1,000 years, really. We believe that we have the moral high ground on the entire earth and that we can tell people how to live and everything else. China has a different perspective. China says, look, we respect your culture. You can be whoever you want to be. You do what you want to do. We'll do what we want to do. You don't talk about what happens in our house. I won't talk about what happens in yours. But let's sit down and do business. You've got resources we want. We've got resources you want. Let's sit down and make a trade. Now, because of the Chinese, they practice powernomics on a very high level. Powernomics meaning group economics, long-term thinking, all the things you need to be a successful wealth builder, all the things that we've been talking to you guys about, all the things that the United States is not doing. That's why the United States is going to fall over the next 100 years. They come in and they make some pretty hefty gangster deals with these countries that are really heavily favored for China. And they're doing it all throughout all parts of Africa. They create what you might call debt traps, where they'll come in to, like, Jamaica. They came to Jamaica and they saw that from Kingston, if you go from Kingston up to the north, I can't remember, Montego Bay and all that's up there in the north part of Jamaica. It used to take 2 or 3 hours to get up there because you had to drive through these crazy mountainous roads, and it's really dangerous and it's kind of insane. Well, they just came in and said, we'll build a highway. And the highway will get you from Kingston up to Montego Bay in about 45 minutes. It's a beautiful highway, nice, smooth drive and everything. But we need all that land. So basically, the Jamaicans gave them 99-year leases on all this land that would allow them to come in and build this highway. And the crazy thing about the highway in Jamaica, this is one example, there's a million of them, is that the toll to ride on the highway is so high that most Jamaican people can't even afford it. We afford it because we're these fancy rich Americans, I guess. And there was a guy who was driving us up there, and I said, this is a really high toll. I can't remember if it was $20 or something, right? And so somebody can't really pay that going back and forth to work. And so the Chinese kind of make these interesting deals with other countries that allow them access to the resources, but also allow them access to long-term asset ownership that is heavily in their favor. And then what they'll also do is they typically won't necessarily teach the country how to do what they're doing, because they always keep themselves relevant. Like, oh, if you need to fix your bridge that we built for you, just call our engineers. They'll come fix it for you, right? And then they'll hire their own people, right? So the Chinese make deals that are pretty skewed in their favor. Let's be clear about that. But they're also they reduce the friction. Friction is anything that keeps you from actually making a deal. So they minimize that friction by saying, look, we're not here to convince you that you should teach your kids about being gay. We're not here to talk to you about whatever your human rights situation is. All the countries are doing dirt, right? We're not here to judge anything. We just want to do business. And I'm not saying that that's the ideal way to do everything. Maybe from an idealistic standpoint, maybe you should speak up a little bit when you see human rights issues in other countries. But the interesting thing about the United States, and this hurts them economically and politically and otherwise, is that we're very hypocritical. So what a lot of countries started saying to the United States is, you're saying that we need to change our human rights record and all this other stuff, but look at the way you're treating your black people. Look at what you're doing. Look at what you've been doing to African Americans and people, not people of color. I don't use that term anymore, but black people in your own country. and you're telling us that we need to change the way we behave, and that just doesn't make any sense. So that's kind of what's been going on in terms of the economic warfare that's happening. China's going to win. They're going to go right into Afghanistan, and they're going to scoop up everything that we left behind. We're going to sit over here with a self-righteous posture to say, well, we don't acknowledge the Taliban because they don't, because they won't let us hang the gay flag, right? And the Chinese are like, we don't give a damn. Like, look, just give us the oil, give us the lithium, let's make a deal. So that's going to be something that you're going to see happening over the next, say, decade or so. All right, and beyond. All right, so anyway, guys, everybody's listening online. You're in the Black Stock Market Program, and this is what we do every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and I answer stock market related questions. So if you want to join us, the first month is free. Go to theblackstockmarketprogram.com. The URL's on the screen. And also, I want to remind everybody about the All Black National Convention, which takes place at the end of October. If you guys want to come to the All Black National Convention, which is in Orlando, at this beautiful family-friendly resort that we rented out, you can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. And so we're going to have a lot of breakout sessions. I want you, when you come to the convention, to focus on networking. Even if you want to go read a good book to read, if you are a reader, is a book like George Fraser's book, Success Runs in Our Race. And what George Fraser talks about is the power of networking, that when you can form strong networks, you're building wealth for yourself and for your family. So when you come to the convention, I want you to be prepared to connect. I want you to be prepared to find common ground with other people. I want you to be prepared to form those sorts of lasting relationships that lead to the development of economic opportunity. Because what typically happens is that when you're competing with other groups economically, it's harder for you to compete as an individual as it is when you're a team. When you're a team, you have diversification, meaning that you have different people with different skills and different resources that they can all bring to the table, right? But when you're competing as an individual or doing it all by yourself, you can't be everything all the time for everybody. So it becomes almost like you're trying to run in the Olympics in the 4x100-meter relay, and you got one player, you got one sprinter who's really fast, but they have four sprinters who all share the work, right? So find other people in your life who can share the work. It starts with how you choose a spouse, or even if you don't get married. I'm not judging that. I didn't get married till I was in my 40s, so I'm not here to tell everybody that you have to get married. But at the very least, you got to figure out who your teammates are going to be, and you have to find a way to intentionally get along with your teammates. Because if you don't get along with your teammates, money gets lost. In divorces, most divorced couples lose 70% of all their assets in the divorce. If you are a baby mama, the lowest net worth in America is that of the Black single mother. So that whole baby mama culture, I would encourage you to try your best to minimize that if you can. We all make mistakes, things happen. I get that, but you got to be conscious about it. Baby daddyism, having kids in multiple households will definitely leave you broke. So ultimately, thinking about these things is how you build your wealth. And a lot of people don't talk about these things, and then they don't have any wealth and they don't know why. Okay. All right. So Jacqueline Battle says, I have a pension I can start collecting at 60. That's 2 years from now. Not only can I collect it, a lifetime pension through the state of Illinois, should I collect the lifetime pension or should I continue to work? I enjoy working with seniors. I'm a care coordinator. I have a 403B at this position. So you're asking me, should you continue to work or should you collect your pension? I think it comes down to allocation of your number one resource, Jacqueline, which is your time in your life and your happiness, right? When you get up in the morning, you only have so many hours and days on this planet. What is the best use of your time? So if there's something other than working every day that you feel would be a better use of your time, then maybe retirement is the best option. But if you really love what you're doing and you like going to work every day, well, the benefit of that is you're selling your time, but you're going to get money in exchange for that. You have a consistent income stream. So maybe working part-time or full-time is something that's fulfilling for you. They also find that people that have a sense of purpose, something to do, they tend to stay alive longer. Even in the Holocaust, in Nazi Germany, they said that the people that had a sense of purpose, a reason, a why, the WHY, the reason why they needed to stay alive, those people were more likely to live. So that's really true. If you want to inject life into your life, I mean, a lot of people are alive, but they're not really living, right? You can be alive, but not really living. You can be spiritually and psychologically dead. And so they find that the people that know why they're doing things tend to inject additional life into their life. Right? You come more alive when you know why you're doing something. That's why I tell you guys, when you talk about your kids and you want to breathe life into your children, what you do is you help them understand why it's important to be a great father when they grow up, or why it's important to be a strong Black woman when you grow up, or why it's important to be economically free when you grow up. You don't even have to explain the how. I'm not kidding. It works. I've seen it happen 1,000 times. I have a friend, his name is Desmond, and he's a multimillionaire, and he's in his early 30s. And I said, how did you get so rich at such a young age? And he said, well, I never worked for anybody. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I said, well, what made you want to do that? And he said, my dad used to always tell me that if a Black man want to be free, he's got to have his own business. And I said, oh, so your father was an entrepreneur? He said, no. He said, my father drove a truck for a company. But he always said that if you want to be free, you should have your own business. So I just kept that in my mind. And when he went to college, he ended up majoring in entrepreneurship. So he learned how to fill in the blank because he had the why. He didn't necessarily have the what. He didn't have the how. He just knew the why, and the why drove everything that he did. Right. So figure out your why. What is your why? Why are you doing this? Like, so if I say, okay, so let's say I meet you at the All Black National Convention, and I say, why are you investing for your family? And you say, because I want to make money. Why do you want to make money? Because I want economic freedom. Well, why do you want economic freedom? Well, because it makes me happy. Okay. Well, what we're talking about is we're not talking about money, really. Money is just one of many tools that can help you get to the real goal. The real goal is freedom and happiness, right? Every time I say why, you go a layer deeper to understand what's really going on, right? So this ain't about, getting rich so you can buy a Gucci bag. This is not about having sports cars in your driveway. I mean, you can have that if you want to. That's fine. I'm not judging that. But when you go deep with it and you understand why, then what you find is that you're really pursuing something that's much more deeper, much richer, much more valuable than money. Money is just one of the tools that can help you get to the real why, which is I just want to be happy, I want to be free, etc. So when my 10-year-old daughter came to me, her birthday is in a couple of days, so I'll bring her on so everybody can say happy birthday to her. And we were talking about what she wanted to do when she grows up. And I said, she named all these things. I think she said engineer and dancer and singer and everything else. And I said, how about instead of just talking about what you want to do as a profession, why don't we figure out what you want to be and mentally and spiritually, right? Let's talk about what you really want out of life. You want freedom, and I think you want happiness. Maybe you can consider. So let's talk about what those things are, so we can then figure out what you want and why, and then you can fit everything else in there, right? So don't get caught up in the superficial. Go deeper so you can understand who you really are. Knowledge of self is the first step towards success and happiness. Okay, so get to know yourself and figure out what your why is, and then the why. At that point, once you know the why, the what, and the how is going to fill itself in, because then you'll be motivated to go get those things. All right, so let's see here. Herb War says, profit taking. As the stock market bounces up and down, there are some analysts that explain that investors are engaging in profit taking. Please explain, and do you recommend that tactic? Profit taking does occur when you have a big run up in stocks. The higher the stocks run up, the more likely it is that you get a correction. So there are people that say you should profit take. That's more of a trader kind of ideology. There's nothing wrong with that. Because maybe you sell your stocks so you can move your money around. I tend to only sell stocks for a couple of reasons. One would be if I have a better use for the money. Like if I think that bringing my money over from here to here, taking it out of stocks, putting it into real estate is a better move for me, then I'm going to do it, right? Maybe either because I can make more money or I just want to be diversified. I also might sell because I need the cash, right? Liquidity reasons. That's what they call that, where you say, look, I want to go buy a new car, so I need a big down payment, so let me go sell some stocks so I can make a down payment. Another reason you might sell is to reallocate your portfolio, right? So what happens is, and this is why a lot of money managers will sell. You'll hear a money manager that'll, let's say that the money manager owns Apple stock and they've owned it for a long time and they've been very bullish on it. And then Apple stock surges upward. Well, they may say, well, how do you feel about Apple? Are you still bullish on Apple? Yes, I am. So you think it's still going to go up? Yes, I do. What are you going to do with the Apple? Well, I'm going to sell some. And you say, well, why would you sell if you think it's going to go up? Well, the reason they sell is because now they're in a riskier situation because Apple is too much of their portfolio. There are laws for a lot of these fund managers that say that once a certain stock becomes too much of your portfolio, you should go ahead and shave some of that off so you can have a more balanced portfolio. So having a balanced set of assets is a lot like eating a balanced meal, right? You might like mashed potatoes, but you don't want the whole plate to be filled with mashed potatoes. You need that to be balanced with your meat or whatever it is, your vegetables, whatever it is you like to eat, right? So ultimately, the balanced meal part is an important reason why a lot of people will go ahead and sell. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and shut off the live stream, guys. If you want to join us in the Black Stock Market Program and send me questions in advance and everything else, feel free to go to the blackstockmarketprogram.com. THE, that's the blackstockmarketprogram.com. The URL's on the screen. And I'm going to bounce out of here.